Journalists in Toronto discuss how traditional media is dealing with social networking technology.
Most journalism is a waste of time. Most human activity
Not
is
supposed to tell people that.
if it's any consolation, most human activity is a waste of
Industry
time.
secret.
Most books that have been written shouldn't have been written. 99% of journalism you could mostly avoid. And so,
Really selling it.
so your role as a journalist and your function as a journalist, I think, should be to try to not waste people's time. And that's hard to do because you're writing them very quickly, ephemerally. But it should always be at the back of your mind is the reader's time is precious because people have so many other things they could be doing, so don't waste their time. And your time is precious because you're only going to get to write so much stuff in your life, so don't waste your time. I think Twitter can be an enormous waste of time, as much as social media can be, but as I said, I preface that by saying so many other things can be wastes of time. But where I think it has some functions is one of it you've identified, which is this kind of practical crowdsourcing, that kind of thing. The second is participating in a kind of a collective swim on an issue. And here is an example of how new media never seem to get used for the intent for which they were involved. And all of us should be just acutely aware of that constantly, is whatever you think the thing is going to be used for, it's not. So, blogging was originally, here's what I had for lunch today, here's a picture of my cat. And then people started writing more substantive things, and lo and behold, it becomes this whole new literary form, very episodic kind of literary form. And some of the same things have been happening with Twitter, admittedly within the constraints of its 140 character limit, but that, of course, is what's made it so interesting. So originally it was supposed to be, dude, where's the party? And now it's we're live tweeting the Iranian students revolt, and now the Haiti thing. So it comes in, it's used for purposes that nobody intended or perhaps anticipated. And one of the things that's coming out of it is a kind of collective writing process. So what do I know about Haiti? Well, I know some of it from reading first-person narratives, which is useful and will never go away, and we absolutely will never lose that, because that's hardwired into our genes, is we want somebody to tell us a story. We want them to impose structure on events, and narrative is so important for that. But in addition, filling in the cracks with that, there is this very interesting evolving form now where it won't just be one person writing it, it'll be thousands of people contributing little blips about it, and you are assembling it in your mind. Big media were very slow to adjust to this, very slow to figure out, including my own employer, to figure out what the web was about. Did an awful job about it, to the extent that we've learned anything we've learned it from social media. We've learned it from the blogging world about usability, because our own websites sucked, and most of them still suck. So we were fat, lazy, and complacent, and we're getting our comeuppance. And we're scrambling to adjust, and we're scrambling to find ways now. We're kind of like the music industry, whose first thought when peer-to-peer sharing came on was, let's sue 12-year-olds.
So every media organization, certainly in North America and beyond, is trying to figure out what they need to be doing on social media, and as an extension of that, they're also trying to figure out what their people should be doing, their reporters, their editors in social media. Some organizations have gone so far as to actually set down guidelines regarding this, and some of them are, I wouldn't say draconian, but certainly very strict. Some are as simple as just don't be stupid, don't do something that you might regret, so take a moment and think before you do something. And then for the most part, I'd say there's a real lack of guidelines, and people are trying to figure it out. So it's sort of ad hoc as they go, and they might respond to a particular circumstance, but by and large, every organization, every media brand that I'm aware of is trying to figure this space out. For instance, the Wall Street Journal last year, I believe, came out with quite strict social media guidelines that they didn't want their reporters who are on Twitter, for instance, or Facebook, to follow or join any groups or really demonstrate any kind of affiliation that could come back and potentially be used or held up as an example of not being impartial. So they were saying, look, folks, you have to be really aware of potential sources, conflicts of interest on these platforms. Other organizations, for instance, I think the Associated Press and the BBC have actually opened up their guidelines and actually allowed commenting in the community to jump on and say, well, you tell us, is this the right spirit of openness, or what are your expectations as a reader, for instance?
One of the things that I really think is powerful about social media is how traditional reporters can use it to connect with their readers and their audience. So one of our foreign correspondents, Stephanie Nolan, who's in India, got on Twitter relatively recently, but started using it to find people in that community, which she wasn't familiar with, that could help her with stories, that could produce contacts, that could help her find things. And I think she found it incredibly valuable. In that one example, she was looking for a specific photographer in a specific, she was looking for a photographer in a specific area of India, and she found one in an hour. So she posted, I'm looking for a person here. I retweeted it, a bunch of other people retweeted it, and she found someone in an hour.